Hi everyone. We're here to talk a little bit about The Almost Gone. I'm David Prinsmel and I'm the art director of The Almost Gone, and I will be talking about art, inspiration, and whatnot together with Joost. Maybe you can introduce yourself, Joost.
Hi everybody, I'm Joost Vandecasteele. I'm the only and so head writer of The Almost Gone.
Okay, so before we start, don't forget to wishlist The Almost Gone to get a reminder on launch day, so you get a discount at launch day. So don't forget that. So, how did we start the project of The Almost Gone? It's a long story, but we'll try to keep it short. My previous job, I was actually a graphic designer at a advertising company, but we got sick of that stupid work, and we we met each other at work, and we just decided we wanted to make a game. So we took some time off, 3 months actually, to start working on a game, which we had no idea about what it was going to be. So we just started making artwork and sketching stuff, making up ideas. Actually, the whole 3 months, we didn't have any idea about which game we were going to make, but we just kept on making artwork, and we made a whole world which looked really nice, and we had so much stuff, and we had no idea what we were gonna do with it until we met Joost, actually the writer now, and we presented it to him. He's also really into video games, and we just needed a story, and Joost was the guy who came to save us out. So how did you do that, Joost?
Well, maybe I should tell a bit about my background. My background is mostly in literature and theater, but as David said, I'm a huge video game fanatic without playing any games. I'm not a great gamer. I always get stuck in level 1 or level 0, but I'm very very fascinated by the rules of video games, how a world is built, how details are important but still be can be ignored. So it was always my wish list. Don't forget wish list, the Almost Gone, to get a discount on launch day. It was always my dream to make a video game because I believe that medium doesn't matter. I believe that if you have a good story, it doesn't matter in what kind of medium you tell it. You just adapt it to the medium. And in this case, Happy Volcano contacted me, and they had some beautiful artwork. I was really mesmerized by what I saw, and it was, it was still at its beginning. It was still something very cutesy, but still it had a little bit of a darkness hidden inside. And I always believe in the stuff I write and the stuff I think of, books or screenplays or stuff like that. I believe you have to balance it. You have to balance something light and something dark. And so when I saw the artwork, these kind of pastel, almost pink dollhouse like drawings and trials, I thought of death. So that's the first thing I thought of. If somebody gives me a cute picture, I think
You think of
somebody
death.
has to die. So that was my mission, to make it gory without showing the gore, to make it mysterious without being pedantic about it, and also to have a character. And I think that's the most important part of the whole collaboration. Happy Volcano is by all standards a very uh, um, well, not experienced, but they know what to do. They know their stuff. They're good designers. And so my only job felt like to provide them with a believable character to fit inside that world. And that's how it all started, with just me infusing a character of a young girl inside a beautiful but weird world.
It was actually pretty cool because we talked about this character and you had some rough ideas and we met a lot in the coffee house and we had some brainstorms. And what was cool about this project is that it's not like you took the artwork and you went home and you started typing on your big typewriter and came back with a script for the whole story. No, it was like every couple of weeks we met up again and then the story changed and then the artwork changed and it was kind of some sort of monster of Frankenstein that was growing and getting bigger and you had to cut off some of his limbs so sew back on some other limbs. And then actually the story and the artwork progressed together nicely in an organic way. So that was really fun. It was not like we got a script or a book and we decided, oh, let's make a game out of this story. So it was a cool way of working together.
Well, that's nice to hear because that's also how I consider this collaboration as being allies, not to be. It wasn't my idea, also, so I kind of felt to be at your service, and what you guys do and can do is not something I can do. I'm not good at drawing. I'm not good at designing, programming. I know a little bit of story. I know a little bit of tension. I know a little bit how to create a character and a plot. And I think that was the only thing that was lacking in the whole project. Without me, it would become an even great game, but with a different kind of story. So all I had to do was to inject my kind of world, my kind of background, my kind of story inside an already beautiful designed world. And so I feel privileged and proud to be part of something that would have become a great game anyhow, even without me, just a little bit too cute, I think.
Nothing death in it. But yeah, I think we kind of feed on each other when we're making the game. We come back with a whole lot of new ideas for puzzles and mechanics and artwork, and you get new ideas about how the story can evolve, and you give us back like a story, and we go back to the drawing board with new ideas, and that's how it kept evolving. And so that's how we created something weird like the Almost Gone, as you told. So that was a really cool process, I think. Process.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the artistic side of things, maybe as well. We talked about the story and how we made it to match each other. But I just want to briefly say the background, and I'm not going to delve too deep into this, but there's a lot of people that kind of give us compliments on the art style for some reason, so it must be okay then. And the thing is, my background is in graphic design. I never got a game education. I just went to a graphic design school, or what's it called in English? I don't know. But so I had a totally different view on games. I love to play games. I've been playing games since I was a small kid. Like the first games I played on the Commodore 64 of my dad. And I kept on playing it until now. I'm still playing games, and I thought there has to be some kind of way of mixing up the graphic design passion I have on one side, like the illustration, and just the really nice graphics, and like the game world. Because if you look at games, most of the games have gamey visuals. We didn't want to make anything like that. I wanted to make something just starting from art, and then as we go along, I wanted to make if I'm visualizing this world and I'm starting to get into it, what could the story be like? What could the gameplay be like? What could the mechanics be like? And it's kind of a different way of approaching a game, but I think it's nice. It's our own way of making games, and I think we'll still be doing it like that in the future as well, because it makes the game stand out, I think, the way it's built up. I got a lot of inspiration from my not my childhood hero, but my hero of all times is Chris Ware. He's like a graphic novelist, and he's really his attention to detail and his illustration is also based on some really delicately drawn lines and details. and I wanted to invoke that feeling as well with the Almost Gone. We also have some zoom bubbles. He also uses that in his novels to highlight details and like make it a side story of like something really common. But the way he presents it, it makes he makes the ordinary look so awesome. So like how a child would look at things, because he just highlights really small materials you're not used to pay attention to. He highlights them and he makes it something special again. And I also wanted to have that feeling in the Almost Gone. So he was a big inspiration for me on that part. And then of course we get the comparison with Monument Valley a lot. And I think it's a really great compliment, because I love how it looks, and I love the studio as too. They're really like a big example for me, how they kind of have the same background. Like they're actually a graphic design studio who's also making games, and it's like the same match we have in the Almost Gone. So that was some of my inspiration, but I've been rambling on too long. I said I was going to keep this short, so maybe we should go more into the thinking part, like the philosophy behind the world of the Almost Gone. Because it's a world that's definitely, it looks like our world, but there's a lot of stuff going on there. What are the rules of this world? What's the philosophy behind it, Joost?
Well, in a way, not only design wise or how it looks visual wise, also Chris Ware is also an inspiration about the character, because in the books of Chris Ware, we see broken people. The characters are mostly common, a bit downtrodden people, and not superheroes. And you don't see that a lot in video games. You don't see a lot of ordinary people or broken people or emotionally scarred people in video games. Most of the time you see a hand and a gun, or some kind of superhero who just, with enough jumping or enough power upgrades, they can climb anything or jump anything. So what we wanted to do with the story is to put somebody realistic and believable inside that world. So it had to feel like a real world. It had to feel like our world, but just a little bit next to the real world. So when we thought of the idea of this is what happens just after you die, just a moment after you die, how does it feel? It's like a bit like, suppose you die this very instance, and in a way, I once had this dream, and this is a real story. I had a dream that I woke up. I woke up in the middle of the night, and the reality was not prepared for me waking up. So all of the sudden, everything have to come back. All the chairs, all the walls, all the neighbors, all the street, they had to pop up again to make the reality. So in that dream I had, it felt like reality has to be rebooted every time I wake up. It sounds very egomaniacal and egocentric, I know, but it became a real inspiration that suppose you die, the world, to make the transition as subtle as possible, you end up in a world that feels and looks like the world you know. It's built of memories, it's built of places you know, people you know, but you never see people. So we kind of thought of a world built out of memories and kind of muscle memory. Like the world is the world after you die is not heaven, it's not hell, it's not even the afterlife. It's just a kind of
A muscle reflex, or
yeah,
like
muscle, but it's like the world without everything. A kind of vacant, that's the word I was looking for, a vacant world. That's where you end up. And so the philosophy behind the Almost Gone is, suppose you're stripped of everything and you have to start all over again inside this vacant world, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be tough. You're going to be sad. You're going to be confused, and you're going to be angry. So we wanted to create a character that had all these emotions, and not just going through the motions, but wants to find out what happens, what she remembers, and to be afraid. A character should be afraid in this kind of world, and that's what we wanted to inject inside of it.
Yeah, because actually the world, like, it's funny because every time we talk about it and we kind of repeat for ourselves what this world is about, we always end up having a slightly different theory. But I think that's cool. I think it's a world you can never understand because it's something that's out there. We didn't invent it. There's probably gonna be something if you die. So, I mean, not the afterlife, but something that should do something on some sort of mechanic or something. And I think the world itself is also a character because it's kind of constructing places for you so you can cope with stuff you had going on in your life, or it presents you with situations like you should see this before you pass on to the next whatever there is. So it's really cool. Every time we talked about this world, it gets into really deep philosophical conversations, and that's nice. So there's no one answer, but I think that's cool. That's part of the mystery of the world we've created as well. Yeah, so talking about the world, when
we also had this idea of the 1 second world. So the idea was, after you die, you get 1 second to choose between life and death, and that became a really appealing but also a really difficult idea. So the idea was that you end up in that place, and you can spend days, years, centuries in that place, but still in real time, only 1 second passes, and that had a lot of restrictions, and it took us too far. So
we shot ourselves in the foot with that theory, because we had a whole lot of ideas, right? About okay. It was a cool idea. It was a cool pitch. Like, it's 1 second, and everyone that dies in that same second ends up in this world. But then we were starting to create characters and stories and deaths of other people or of famous people, and we got like a bit. It got too difficult. Like the first approach to this world was a bit too cluttered or too fragmented. Maybe is a better word.
Well, it didn't make sense, and it shouldn't make sense at first, but that's what I also love about video games, and especially about the whole video game world, that people take video games and Easter eggs or hidden messages very, very serious. So I would be personally disappointed if it didn't make any sense that we kind of portrayed that idea. So the idea was, suppose that girl dies Tuesday the 17th of April at 4:25. That's her moment of death. The other people who die at that exact moment also end up at the same place. So that was the idea, that you visit different worlds, dark worlds if somebody died in a gruesome way, a more cheerful world if somebody died peacefully, a kind of a horror world if somebody died during a murder, or even a kind of a crazy world if somebody with dementia died. But we had to introducing different characters inside that world didn't work. You don't see the character, so you start with this point of view of a girl, and when you kind of follow this girl, and you start to sympathize with that girl, it doesn't work if you have to all of a sudden change that point of view, if you all of a sudden you have to sympathize with somebody else. So that was kind of a big changing point, and still a difficult changing point, because we had some great ideas. We had this idea of a hotel room based on a famous death of Lupe Velez of Valdez, a famous Hollywood actress in the 30s who wanted to die famously, who wanted to die like a real diva and started to take sleeping pills, too many sleeping pills, and a lot of alcohol. So she put herself on the bed like this angel in a beautiful gown. But of course, because of the alcohol and the sleeping pills, she became ill and had to rush to the bathroom and to vomit. So the next day, she was found dead with her head inside the toilet bowl. So we wanted to make a world inside that hotel room and to recreate her the death she wanted. But then you had to create this whole backstory of this one actress somewhere from the 30s, and it kind of took us away from the core mechanics of the game. That is what happened to that one girl. And it kind of felt like we kind of put ourselves in a corner, and we kind of got stuck in the corner. And that's something, because we worked organically, because we just pitched ideas and we just went ping pong and we meet up a lot of time, it was possible to scratch ideas. We didn't panic if it didn't work out. We just moved on. And you can tell in this game, you feel like this game, The Almost Gone, has this kind of, it feels grounded. It doesn't feel like a rush job. Everything that you see and read in the game had this version after version after version to make it just right. And that's why I'm also proud of this game, that it took a lot of work, and you can feel it in that game how much work went into it.
Yeah, there definitely went a lot of work in there, and it's one thing to tell, like, we're not promoting this way of working because in hindsight we could have done some things differently, but I don't want to talk about the process and the game design too much now. But definitely it had some advantages, but it also has some disadvantages because you don't have like a high level um thing that can like guide you to the end line, because we didn't know where the end line was. We were basically going around and around and around until we just found it, and we just knew we were there. And it can be a little bit tedious and hard on the nerves if you're working on the project this long. But anyway, it was a very cool progress. But when talking about cutting out content and leaving out stuff and killing your darlings, yeah, we even had like full on settings or full on worlds. Like we had the forest that was way bigger, where you had a telescope and you can zoom in towards some spots where some people died in this wood and got lost in this woods, and you had to save them. We even had a shopping mall, as you said, Joost. We had so many ideas, but the scope was getting a little bit too big. And as we let people play the game, they played the first chapter. They were drawn into the game for being so colorful, but understanding this dark undertone that was in there. And immediately the players got sucked into the story of this main character. And then you had the second chapter, and we started introducing new characters, and we just forgot about the background of the girl. And players were like, I just want to know what happened to the girl. I want to know what this is. So we kind of kept those characters into the world, but we tied them more together. Like we connected them more to the actual life of the girl, so they were connected. She met them. They were part of her family. They were friends, or they were people that lived in the same neighborhood. Like, for example, we have two guys in the second act in the suburbs. They're called Ben and Karim. We brainstormed for weeks and weeks, and we made visuals and everything to support their whole backstory, which was super dramatic. But in the end, it's cut down to like real, like maybe one tag or one line of text. That was hard. That was hard.
That was really hard. For me personally, the hardest part was getting rid of the shopping mall, because it was based on this kind of. There was I think in Kenya, there was a mass shooting in a shopping mall, and we wanted to recreate the death of somebody who died in that shooting spree. But then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, after long work, we kind of figured out as soon as we make it too gory or too on the nose of violence, it doesn't work anymore. You have to remain mysterious. And the same thing with Bin and Kareem. Even names in a game, in a game like The Almost Gone, it doesn't work. It makes them too present, too real. And also the backstory of these two guys became too violent. And then it became also too much of an ordinary cliche game with guns and violence and just and make us it didn't make the game stand out if we went to the pathway of killing and shooting and
But I think that
Wow.
like the main reason why we didn't put them in there is because we wanted to focus on the girl. But I think the story of both guys was so cool, and it would have been cool if we told the player, okay, this went on in your backyard, in your backyard of the house of the main character. So it might be cool to, like, if you can, like, in like a couple of minutes or 1 minute tell the story of Ben and Karim, so we can.
well, there can always be a sequel.
Yeah.
This is just one girl, but people die every day. So we have like billions of
We have a lot of
inspiration.
material.
So many dead people. So many almost gones.
Yeah, true. But actually,
Yeah, it was really kill your darlings. But like you said, David, there were little details we came up with, and still ended up in the game like these fragments. But still, you felt like there's something more than just a detail, something more than just a fragment. So it kind of helped us to scratch a lot. It kind of made us progress much slower, but also much deeper.
but talking about scratching a lot, like the major, you wouldn't believe it. Our players wouldn't believe it, but there was actually a totally different ending on the game. We can't like elaborate on the ending, of course, because then we'll spoil everything. But we really had it ready for shipment, and we had a really cool ending. But then, due to certain circumstances or parties that thought it would be too graphical, we decided not to. Like, we couldn't take the risk. But actually, I'm that's the saddest part for me. Like the ending, we had to change the ending. The ending we have now is good, but it's really suggestive. The ending that was originally in there was a bit more of a slap in the face, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy who likes a good slap in the face once in a while. I need it once in a while.
A little bit too personal, but still okay.
And I don't know. How do you feel about that? Maybe we should have some sort of director's cut or something. Like if the game is finished, or
Well, you could have if you have the time, and I know you have a lot of free time, so go ahead. But I'm kind of over it because it's not like we presented an open end now. It's not like a plan B we're providing now. We're giving an ending, a really satisfying ending that gonna provoke more discussion. I'm sure of it. More discussion and more heartfelt emotion than what we ended up with at the first time. And it kind of surprised me already if I look at the preview as the what is already been saying about this game, the kind of YouTubers who talk about it, they already find it very thought-provoking and very adult-like and very uh, poignant. So I'm already surprised that it already feels without the ending like it was. It already feels like very emotional. So in a way, that was my biggest fear. If we didn't show the end like we had at the first place, it would be too soft. But now I'm convinced it's not soft at all. It's some hard, hard You know.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the theories that's gonna come up with, like, because we're not explaining everything into the super detail. So I'm really
Maybe it's going to
curious.
be the Freemasons theory.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a QAnon ending. I don't know. No, you know.
I'm really pleased with this ending because, you know, talking about a sequel, we can just begin the sequel right where we end the first game. Just like that.
Hold your horses. Hold your horses. We don't have another 5 years to make a sequel, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Okay, I think this kind of gives an extra view or an extra viewpoint on the game, and I'm really interested in going into discussion with players or people who have played it. I'm really curious to feedback and the theories that players will hang up on this story, and yeah. So I think that's it. I just want to say that, like, wishlist is almost gone on Steam, so you get the free the discount on launch day.
Not free.
No, that's not free. That's not a free discount. You have to pay for the discount or something. No,
It's so cheap. For a game so good, it's so cheap. It's like it's
like 2 beers or something. No, 2 expensive beers in Iceland or something. Whatever, we're rambling on. Okay, thanks for watching us, listening to us. Do you want to say something, Joost, like closing comments, because I suck at this apparently?
You don't suck. You're just different. So anyway, it's a game. That's all I want to say. It's a game, and we worked a long time of it, and we had some fun with it. But also, it's a game that hopefully feels and acts different, and hopefully that's not the first Happy Volcano game you will play in your lifetime. So if you wanna check it out, there's a wish list. You get a discount if you register on Steam on the day of the launch. You get this amazing game, and if you don't like the Almost Gone, tough luck.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Bye.